I am adjusting the polar. I am currently adjusting the polar, which can bring colours out of the image more, make it more duller, remove reflections, stuff like that. That's what a polar can do. Bye bye.
There's certain things that you can't do with a film camera, and I think that because like this camera's lying on its side right now, like in the future for like the younger generations that grow up with digital technology, the ability just to get so low to the ground will be like, it'll just be like, yeah, so you can do that. Yeah, I can do that too. You know, it's not because back in the day when you had a film camera to get low to the ground, you had to use like an inclining prism. It was just harder. It was just because you got the film, you got the film plane, you got the lens. You know, the fact that you can just chuck a camera on the floor and bloody, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But it's just, I don't know. Sometimes like I was saying in that video that I just uploaded, you know, it's just sometimes you do it for yourself. You're not necessarily doing it to show off or to say how you're better, but it makes you feel better that you've shot it a particular way. You know, that's sort of like how I that's how I like to frame me making my movies. I'm not the best filmmaker in the world, but you know what? I'm happy to make my films the way they are in my style, my way, and I don't have it. I don't have to answer to anyone. I don't have to. I don't have a a film funding body telling me what I can and can't do. I mean, look, I would like to be like a David Fincher where you can just bloody. Or maybe it's even hard for him still, but maybe the dream of being like a Tarantino, David Fincher, maybe it's harder than what it is, what it sounds like. It probably is. But yeah, I just don't want to have to deal with studio funding bodies and stuff like that. So, am I in focus or what? Who knows? Who bloody knows? There we go. Now I'm in focus. Yeah. So yeah. You know, I've just been watching some Bob Marley interviews, and sometimes I think, you know, because obviously Bob Marley smoked a lot of weed. It sort of shaped who he was, it seems, but I don't know what Bob Marley was like before he started smoking weed. So, you know, I don't know. All I'm trying to say is that, like, you know, you just got to be careful what your information diet is. You got to be careful what drugs you're taking. You know, coffee doesn't seem to have too negative of a side effect, but heroin does. You know, um, having a drink of alcohol doesn't have too much of a negative effect for most people, but ice does. You know, you got you know like the say the thinking of the marijuana should be legal, should be untaxed or whatever. Herb is a plant. Herbs are good for everything. Like that ideology that just because it grows in the ground, it means it's safe isn't necessarily true. People used to. I've never taken acid, but people used to say, "Oh, don't take acid, man. It'll fuck you up." Because it just sounds bad. Acid. Yeah, I took acid. I'm taking acid. I used to think that acid was different to LSD, lysergic acid, but I didn't realize that LSD was acid. So I thought acid was something different, like as if it was like a dark market, like a bad drug. I thought acid, fuck acid, no way. But if someone offered me mushrooms, I would take some mushrooms, more so over acid because it comes from the ground. So yeah, um, I'll leave it there.